Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are going to do another connection spotlight, where I am connecting or shining a bright light on the many people who are using their gifts and their talents to help others heal in this world of change. So today, I'm spotlighting Tammy Bell. Tammy, welcome to the program, or welcome to my channel.
Thank you, Julianne. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to hear more about what you do and your story. Tammy is the owner of the Healing Orchard, which I love that name. It's a really pretty name.
Thank you.
Tammy shares her passion to help people learn about natural health as it affects their lives. Tammy is a certified Reiki 2 practitioner and certified in emotion code and also in body code. So basically, and what I liked you to say when you said too, that you named it the Healing Orchard, a growing sanctuary for natural healing, because you are dedicated to helping align people with their true natural or true nature in a holistically peaceful and uplifting way. And that you want them to experience their life journey filled with inner peace and harmony. And more importantly, you know that people can heal naturally from the inside out by letting their subconscious lead the way, which is beautiful. And you don't have to struggle any longer. You can live your best life and be the best self as well. So yes. I love that, the way you put that. And the name of your business is beautiful as well. So
well, my dream is to have an orchard.
Seriously?
And so
okay.
Yes, so that's I've always wanted to have a cherry orchard. And years ago, I would always say, if I won the lottery here, I would have an orchard and I would give away the food.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing. But actually, we did move someplace, and I did plant 2 hazelnut trees, 2 cherry trees, and we had a kind of a clean slate that we had to start from scratch. So, but yeah, healing comes from good food and nature and energy work.
Plus, I do believe that is the future. Not only is holistic, natural practices that were given to us, from the beginning of and taken from us, yes. But healing from within, like you say, eating the right nutrition and so forth, which again has been messed up for us most of our life. So that's a beautiful path. How long? So you started out as a Reiki practitioner first.
Yes.
And then was it like 2006? Was that when you kind of started the journey with the other stuff, or?
Well, 2006 is when I started down the natural path. Okay. I had read the book from Kevin Trudeau, Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About. Mm-hmm. And that got me to a naturopathic doctor, and it got me to getting myself off of antidepressants and putting myself onto natural things. And then that's when my organic path started. And my husband at the time thought we were going to go broke from me buying organic food.
Yeah, because it wasn't available and it was pretty expensive. I mean,
yeah,
much more so.
But that was how that started, was back in 2006. I didn't become Reiki certified until 2018. Okay. So there was some journeying in between there. And I actually didn't even know what Reiki was. It was just like, oh, you need to take this class. Okay. Okay. So, yeah.
And so possibly, I mean, like, obviously your own health journey, it kind of started with your own awakening and yes. things that healed you. So yes. did you obviously the Reiki, you learned how to be a Reiki practitioner, but you probably experienced Reiki, which you found helpful.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And, then did you also then stumble upon somebody who you went to with these body codes or these emotion codes?
Well, in when was it? It must have been 2014 or 15. I went into my doctor's office to pick up some supplements on my lunch hour one day, mm-hmm. and I struggled with anxious thoughts to a detrimental point. And that day it was a full moon, and I was like, I'm a mess today. I don't know what's going on, but I'm a mess. And my nurse friend, Julie, said, well, if you have a few minutes, I might be able to help you. And so she took me back to her office and explained to me that, the subconscious knows everything about you, and she had this tool, and maybe she could help me with my anxiousness for that day. So she tested me, and she released 5 emotions that day, and one of them was hatred. And she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but hatred, and I'm like, I get it, because I only had hatred towards one person.
Right.
And I had been divorced, and I had a lot of things going on personally that just continued to carry on, and that I truly feel that the hatred that day being released was such a huge thing, because it was holding me back from so much. And I don't think I could be the person I am today without the emotion code.
Right. And that, we're learning so much more about how our past experiences, even if we have salted it away and don't really, we're not cognitive of it, not really aware, how all of that affects us. And even when we think we've dealt with something, we have new emotions. We day to day,
Yes.
our experiences are never the same. I mean, we're never the same, no matter what we do, even if it seems like a routine kind of situation, right?
Yes. Yeah. Life continues on, and they continue to, if you're not at this state to be able to release them, you will continue to trap them.
Right.
Yeah.
So on your website, I'm kind of using that as a little bit of a template, but you say, well, who do I help? Or, and you say, well, you're able to help women and men and animals. Now, are children
Yes.
involved with that too? Is there a certain age group that you would?
Yes, you can help children as well. Children up to a certain age, you wouldn't want to use any magnet, just like you wouldn't want to use a magnet if someone had a pacemaker or some type of stimulant like that. But yes, I have worked with children as well.
What would be the age that you probably really wouldn't do too much? I mean, what?
I would prefer that it be at least 3 years and up for sure.
Okay.
I do have grandchildren, so
Okay, well, there you go. And
I've
the
seen their
animal
struggles.
the animal thing is also really fascinating too. We can
Yeah.
talk more about that, but basically you help, by releasing what holds us back, and you assist us to improve our outlook, feel hopeful, and live healthy again. And it puts you back in your path so that you can nurture your own dreams and live the life that you were meant to live. So again, there's emotional imbalances and there's physical imbalances, right?
Yes.
So emotional imbalances, verbal and emotional, familial trauma, narcissism, addictions, feeling out of control or controlled by others.
Yes.
We're finding out our words are spells, aren't they? So
yes, they are.
And situations, substances, loss of personal power, feeling unworthy, the sadness and the worry, all the anxious thoughts. And, we're living specifically now in a time where it seems like more and more are, having some trouble with their anxieties and their emotions. There's a lot going on. I suppose there always has been, but I feel like it definitely is ramped up right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and then the
Yes.
physical imbalances then that would be like your eating, your food issues, weight gain, weight loss, the cravings, any kind of pain, in your body,
Yes.
neck, back, stomach or gut issues, teeth issues, ears. I mean, just everything, because basically the way I understand it too, our bodies are miraculously designed, right? I mean, our bodies innately want to heal, and
Yes,
strive
absolutely.
to do that. When we're not giving our bodies the right love and attention, the right food, rest, and so forth, basically, when we get ill, when we have these types of symptoms, it's the manifestation of the organs just overtaxed. They aren't able to perform their functions anymore. So then we kind of learn late in the game. And the allopathic medical community is very helpful in certain areas, and we're happy to have them when we need them. But we got to get back to identifying what's causing things first, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then that's basically, in a nutshell, you're getting to the root of the problem.
Yes.
Or what's causing.
Yes. If your body is imbalanced, you're not going to be able to process these energies that are coming to you, and that's just going to contribute to other issues.
Right. So for a person to ask if an emotion code or a body code session is right for them, well, basically ask yourself, are you tired of being weighed down by past traumas or experiences? Who wouldn't be frustrated with that? Living with physical or emotional pain, being easily triggered by others. And that's a big one these days, like,
yes,
obviously, if you're lashing out and acting, maybe irrational or acting quickly about something, that's a sign, right? Having unhealthy or codependent relationships, which many times is repetitive, right? They keep repeating the same patterns.
Yeah, you actually can have courting, is one of the things that comes up in the body code, and it says right in there you have an open-ended thing, so you could end a relationship, but you're still looking for that same vibration out there, so you'll find the same type of partner or same type of circumstance until that released.
So is that something that too, like an imprint, it's like a residual. So
yes,
even when it's addressed, just realize that things have to be maybe revisited.
yes,
Yeah. I mean, the goal is when you have a client come to you and you're working on their emotions or their situation, the goal is to get them well enough they don't really have to come back and see you that much, and you give them probably tools that help them to better manage if they see something down, kind of leading down that path again.
Yeah, one of the the great things that I like about the emotion code and body code is that it's easy. Like I tell my patients, you just have to sit there.
Yeah.
Or you just have to sit there, and what I say easy is that the release, how do I word this exactly, it's just easy.
Well,
I have people that say you just lifted a weight off my shoulders, and all they did was sit in the chair.
well, yeah, you're basically, the best thing that they can do for themselves is be relaxed, right?
Yes,
Be
yes,
relaxed, and you're there to kind of maybe remind them or ask them questions that lead them to the discoveries, or the epiphany,
right.
if you will, for both of you. And it's kind of like turning on a switch, right?
Yes.
They are able.
Well, and
Yeah.
and the thing is that the things that used to trigger you may not trigger you. It's powerful, but it's subtle. It's very subtle, and you might have this aha moment, like, well, that used to really make me mad, but now all of a sudden it doesn't make you mad because we worked with anger or anxiousness that was coming from that particular area.
Right. And just like you say, I mean, like years ago, maybe you remember a trauma or something that would trigger you, or a memory, and you thought you had dealt with it. But then you realize that deep down, it's actually still there.
Yes.
And it just kind of been laying under the radar, if you will. And it was enough to cause a person to be kind of stuck,
Yes.
going forward in their life now. So, I mean, it's simple in some ways to realize that, but it's also quite big, and can be quite convoluted, I guess would be the way it would go. But
Yeah.
you deal with things kind of one at a time, like in layers, right? Like kind of peeling an onion.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And in the body code, you can have a major topic, your main topic, and then associated imbalances with trapped emotions that are underneath it. And those layers, it could be just a couple layers, or it could be 10 or 12 layers.
Right.
It just depends on what we're working with.
Yeah. So it probably depends on each and every session, what it is that the body wants to tell you.
Yes.
Right.
Well, in the questions that we ask are infinite. Like we can, the subconscious always leads the show. I tell people I'm the middleman between you and your subconscious. and the subconscious leads the show. So we can ask, for example, I just worked with a lady and the question was, is there an underlying imbalance that we can decode today for so-and-so regarding moving forward?
Yeah.
The stuckness regarding moving forward, or regarding trusting herself.
Right.
Those different things. I mean, we can ask about physical pain, but the questions are infinite.
Yeah. And basically, if some people, might reflect on thinking about how they've had emotions and damage and, things that have bothered them in their life, but they think they're fine. Again, think how you're feeling. Think how it's from day to day. Do you have anxious thoughts or feelings of sadness? You know what I mean? Really, sometimes we just don't want to look in the mirror. We don't really want to look at our own self. But if you're unhappy about anything in life right now, what is it that's triggering that, right? Are you exhausted? Are you drained all the time? Or do you find yourself repeating the same patterns over and over again? Huge.
The anxious thoughts in 2019, that's when I went to do the body code, or excuse me, the emotion code certification. And at that point in time, I had binge watched videos all winter long from emotion code and body code that were gifted to me from my friend Julie, because she retired, and so she asked me if I wanted those. But I binged watched them the whole winter, and then in the spring of 2019, it came across my Facebook feed for emotion code training down in Phoenix.
Oh wow.
But I was so very stuck, and the anxious thoughts were wrecking my life.
Right.
And I just, and I come from a family of warriors. My grandma's a major warrior. My mom, if they find things to worry about.
Yeah.
and
Right.
so I just said, I can't do this anymore. This is not my life. I'm done.
Yeah.
And it was a really bottom spot, but it was wonderful.
Well, to get where you're going on the other side, where it's so much better, we do sometimes have to kind of get to that moment when we just succumb. We just, let it happen. And then you become stronger afterwards by dealing with it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so obviously you were doing some Reiki while you were kind of doing your emotion code training and stuff. So yeah, that was a lot on your plate, but I'm sure it's been very satisfying. So basically we're all affected by emotions, right? I mean, all of us. And even if we get to feeling better and we've dealt with a lot of our stuff, we can get new ones. So we have other things in life that will re-trigger or give us new symptoms or new things to handle, right? But I think once we have addressed and we have started to feel better, people are a little more aware, right? And about it, and maybe are more apt to deal with it before it gets out of hand. Again, I mean, when we know better, we try to do better, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when I first went down to Dr. Nelson for the training, and I came back and so with the emotion code, you need to wait 48 hours for the emotions to process, for this energy to come through you after releasing it. And so every 3 days I was doing a new session on myself. So I would do a session, I would wait the 48 hours, and then I would do it. I'm like, I wanted to get the work done. And now if any anxious thoughts try to creep in, I'm like, oh no, you don't belong here anymore. I know you. And you're not part of my life.
So it's pretty easy for you to do your own session for yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very, not everyone is as fortunate with working with themselves, but I have been, yes.
Yeah, I would imagine sometimes. That's why I've always said the healers need to be healed as well. Or, the healers need support, a support system. Some people trade services, things like that. So, so you've been doing this long enough that, do you have any overall thing that you can say with the amount of like certain professions? I would think that certain people in certain roles of society maybe have a bit more trauma, a bit more stuff to deal with than the average person. I think of people who are firefighters, EMTs, things like that. Do you see some of that in certain?
Yeah, I've not worked with too many people as far as firefighters or workers like that. I've worked with some other healers. I've worked, yeah, I've just kind of worked with a variety of people.
Yeah.
Everybody has trauma.
Yeah. Well, they do. And before we knew about, and I didn't look into it, has motion code, body code, this way of healing, is this a fairly new modality, or has this been around for a while?
I do not remember when it came about. Dr. Nelson was a chiropractor and natural doctor. And so that's how he came about, was because people were coming into his chiropractic practice, and they would be coming in and with some repetitive things. And he realized that the emotions were underneath there, with some assistance from above.
Well, the reason why I asked that question is, I mean, like growing up, you and I mean, like if you have issues, people go to counseling, or people go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And that just seemed like it was always for somebody else, but never for me or you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There might have been a stigma to that. And a lot of it could have been because we didn't understand why somebody would need to do that. Boy and howdy, as we get older, do we understand? But it just makes sense that some of those practices, could benefit from using some of this instead of, I hate things in a box, but I mean, they're big tools. The tools that they have in their toolbox are medications, and the medications are not the answer, in my opinion. I feel all the time on this kind of stuff. And so the very thing, they'll have a warning on the medication label. This will actually maybe cause the person to have these bad thoughts.
Right.
To themselves, So
well, I was on antidepressants at a time. And I back in 2006, when I first found that natural doctor, and that's when I got off. But I did have those bad thoughts. I knew there was a better way than that. For me personally, it was worse for me than better.
Well, that's what's nice about this. I mean, it'd be nice if more of those kind of people who are very sought out after, because that's kind of the first go-to for some people, is to go to the medical community, and then they're referred to psychology or whatever. If they could be open to having these tools, it'd be, I think, a very wonderful thing. But really, anybody with the right intention can learn this kind of a healing art. And I think there will be more of that coming up. Then my next question is, again, I'm thinking of school age children. And that's why, because schools have counselors, right?
Yes.
Now, especially these days, there's not always a cohesive family unit. So there's all kinds of factors that go into a child's life. All these different children come from a different family and different situation. But even if they have emotions and traumas stemming from their feelings at home, let alone school, when it comes time to being more grown up and making some decisions about what you're going to do in your world, growing up, I can't remember the names of the different tests. Some kind of aptitude type test. I know they did ASVAB for the military. There's certain little tests that a lot of times you don't think about, well, what am I good at? What do I like? You just kind of cruise along. And it just kind of makes sense that if some of these younger adults could get some kind of help in this fashion to know who they are and what makes them tick and why they feel the way they feel, I think there'd be a better match possibly to know moving forward what their gift is, or what would they excel at and be happier in their life.
Yeah, I agree. I had a lot of emotional baggage to work with from my own childhood. And so, at the age of 15, I went to drinking alcohol to an excess on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
And that alcohol stuck with me for many, many years. And I can't imagine if I'd have been able to have something like this, that would have been able to deter some of that, I mean, my life is what it is. And it's also why I'm where I'm at. And no regrets, but I'm saying, I think
Right.
if I would have had these tools, I would have truly went down a different path than
Absolutely. And
going towards alcohol.
you did that for certain reasons, and others just do it maybe because there's nothing else to do, or they want to be part of the crowd, or that's the thing
Right.
to do. And if they have the personality type, or kind of the addictive personality type, that could lead to problems. Some people can stop and not be affected and be done. Now you add all kinds of other drugs and different things that are out there that weren't there when I was growing up, or
Oh,
that I didn't know about. So it just kind of, again, gets ramped up. And again, I think that moving forward, some of these treatment or these different healing modalities, such as what you're doing, there'll be more and more of them available, and it'll be a much nicer place to be able to help people at a younger age, so that they maybe don't have to struggle.
yes,
Moving.
I totally agree. And
Yeah.
and I have a friend who's a Psych K facilitator, and she has 4 children, and it's funny to hear the different things that she says her kids are talking about.
Well,
because it's already in their world,
yeah.
some of these wonderful belief systems and things like that.
Well, exactly. And I mean, it's after the fact, right? Like, when you're young and you have all your youth and your life ahead of you, you're infallible, right? You're like iron, and you get all these great words of wisdom from grandparents and parents, and you hear it, and it goes out the other ear. And because you can't really relate to it at the time, you have not matured enough to get it, right?
Yeah.
And there'll always be some kind of a ramp up or a disconnect because of how things change. So that's never really going to change too much, but it's quite interesting in retrospect to look back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
right.
I do.
Yes.
Technology brings a lot of beautiful things as far as how we can do this kind of a discussion, on a
Oh, it's wonderful.
call, and then we can talk to somebody across the world. You can do your sessions in person, or you can do them remotely anywhere
Yes.
in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So those are pretty cool abilities to be able to do that. But the interpersonal connection is kind of lacking a little bit these days, and that's affected everything as far as socially, how people interact. Do you have any specific, without giving any information because of HIPAA and all that I don't need names or anything like that, but like, have there been any significant wow moments, or people that you've really helped, turn corners and save their life, so to speak?
Yeah, I have some. It's quite amazing
Yeah.
the work that I do. I'm humbled by it on a daily basis. I'm working with a lady right now who came in, and she was extremely well. She had some bad things going on in her life. Anyway, long story short, I have been able to help her with just coming down. Like, her husband notices her energy levels. Her mom over the phone, friends over the phone, they're like, we can notice the difference in you right now. Like, and they're not even seeing her in person. It's
So I mean,
just,
the way she approaches and talks, she's
yes,
more
just,
calm.
yes, just the tone in her voice. Yes. But I've been able to help people, heart walls contribute to back and neck pain. I've been able to help people with different back and neck pain. I've had people come in, and they come in with back pain, and by the end of the session, that back pain is gone.
Mhm.
The emotional part is big to me, and
Yeah.
as I said before, it's so subtle. But
Yeah.
one of my ladies that I've worked with about 6 times, she said, you just keep sweeping the cobwebs out every time we come in. You
Mhm.
just keep sweeping them out. One thing that comes up quite a bit for people is embodiment. like this, yeah, the spirit actually being out of the body. And that can cause physical ailments because it's your energy force needs to be in there to get things to be working
we're not
properly.
talking about when you're sleeping and in the astral and all that. We're talking.
No.
Clarify that just a little bit again for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's considered spirit out of the body.
Okay.
And so, it's not out 100%, but it could be out 40%, 50%. And this actually came up for me personally. And when I was able to put my spirit back into my body, I have to help with, I had trapped emotions there. I had some other associated imbalances, offensive curses, things like that.
Right.
I became more focused. And that was a huge thing for me. But it's amazing to me. It comes up for quite a few different people in the body code sessions. And
so without the body code sessions, would there be something that a person would be looking for that might mean that that's kind of a thing for them that they could?
Well, yeah, lack of focus, in my opinion, lack of focus is a thing. Some people actually, when this comes up, they say, "Oh, I believe that. I understand that." They don't feel connected. They feel like they've lost some of the connection. So there could be loneliness, some sadness, things like that. That's been something that I have observed. I'm very analytical. So
well, do you think that part of what causes that too, when you think of loneliness, and in this day and age, there's been a lot of people passing, a lot of trauma that way. When you have a deep loss like that, that could kind of cause something like that too.
Yes, absolutely. Grief is a pretty powerful, very powerful emotion, and it seems to be coming up. I have seen it a bit more in my sessions here recently. Yeah.
It totally makes sense, just because of even some of the questions over the last year or two that I was getting all the time. So many people around the world, they've just been lonely. They may be, because they are awakened to a world that's different and changing, and they're around people who don't resonate with that. And so they're lonely on that regard, or they have physically lost family members or friends, and they don't even probably have a pet to talk to. So, you know what I mean? They do feel despair. So,
yes.
There are a lot of people out there who would, I know, benefit from your services. Now, with pets, do you have much experience with pets?
I do have some experience with pets, yes. I've worked with cats and dogs. I've not been able to work with any horses, but I would hope that happens at a time. I think that would it's pretty intriguing to me.
So when you're working with the animals, it's different than the people who have the gift of, like, say, kind of talking to the animals, if you will.
Correct.
You're reading their energies.
Yeah. The subconscious is leading the show, and quite often their sessions aren't very long. They don't have a lot of things. Quite often I see a lot of inherited emotions coming in, and that totally makes sense with as fast as dogs and cats are are bred out there. But then one thing that I thought was fascinating when I did my training for the body code was every single animal that I worked with had post-hypnotic suggestions.
Okay, so post-hypnotic suggestion.
Yeah. So from either from music or TV, or it could even be from their own owner or someone else telling them that they're
interesting.
bad. But yeah, post-hypnotic suggestion. I will never look at an animal the same.
Well, so also, is it pretty beneficial? Because a lot of times our pets are so wonderful. They're unconditionally loving. But when they get to the point where they may be sick, or you're wondering what to do, are they going to, should I send them over the Rainbow Bridge? Things like that.
Yeah.
Are those times that are kind of helpful for people to do a session just to see what they can do to help their pet?
Things that would be beneficial for them. One lady that I worked with, she had taken her cat to the groomer, And when cause I forget the name of an Angora, some type
Oh,
of
okay. A
cat.
real fluffy
Yeah.
cat.
And so she had to take her cat to the groomer. And when the cat came back from the groomer, it wouldn't sit on her lap anymore. And it just totally was not acting like itself. And so I ended up working a session with this cat, and we got the cat back to sitting on her lap and and being back to normal as far as prior to the groomer
Well, was the
visit.
cat traumatized with the grooming experience, or just kind of still a little PO'd at the owner for taking her to the groomer?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one
Oh,
it was, but maybe a little of both. Yeah.
maybe a little of both, but that was rude. Definitely out of the norm for the cat. So
Yeah.
that's just got to be super interesting. Just the things that really are a real deal, you know what I mean, that we're becoming aware of. It's quite exciting, actually. And there's still so many people that don't know of these things. So I'm hoping that more people are learning about it. So let's just kind of talk a little. It's usually the emotion code is what you do first, correct?
Well, that is the first certification. I truly the processing from the emotion code is easier. So
Okay. I
um
mean, is there you have to do one before you do the next type of thing?
oh, as far as getting certified, yes, but as far
Okay.
as working with a client, I truly let the subconscious choose
Oh, okay.
what I'm going to do, emotion code or body code. And sometimes in a session, I will go back and forth.
Oh, okay.
Like I'll start out with releasing some emotions, then we'll go into some imbalances, and then we'll go back to some emotions that just,
Almost like a braid or a knot that you're untying,
yeah,
depends on what stage. So
yes,
just to explain the emotion code from what you have down here, the emotion code is a form of energy work that helps people literally get rid of their emotional baggage. The technique works to identify and release the trapped emotions, which are harmful emotional energies from the negative past events. So these trapped emotions can cause sadness and anxiousness, right? And they can block people from feeling love and happiness and having a good life moving forward and feeling disconnected. So it's about identifying and releasing
yes,
the baggage, as you say.
yes. And usually we need to know what the emotion is, whose emotion it is, whether it's theirs, whether they absorbed it from someone else, or whether it was inherited.
That's
And
true. That's true. That's actually a good point to be made too, because
yeah,
it might still be affecting us, but it's not really, we didn't do it.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially for empathic people that, can absorb other people's
Uh-huh.
energies easily. And then we need to know what age that emotion is, or if it's inherited, how many generations back, and where it is located in the body. Certain emotions go to certain places. For example, heartache would go to the heart or the small intestine. Anger goes to the liver or the gallbladder. And once we know these things, then that's enough to release it. And usually it's a bit of a trigger,
Right.
um, you know, and that's all we really need for the emotion code.
Well, that's
And then
pretty cool though, because most people most people don't have a very vivid memory of being fairly young. Okay.
right.
Like even I think that the memories can go back in the gestational process, like when you were in the womb, something
Yeah.
happened to mom or whatever, and it affected you. So
Yes.
it's kind of trippy to think about that, but that's where,
There,
how else would a person know, right?
yeah. I've seen many things in the womb. And some of us are kind of angry in the womb.
Well, and I have, if you think about it, I've actually heard that it's one of the more traumatic experiences as far as the birthing process itself.
Yeah.
That's quite a deal. So I'm glad that we don't have a memory, or at least most of us don't, of all that. So
There are prenatal trapped emotions,
wow,
which would be that absorb from your mother,
yeah,
usually in the third trimester. Um, there's that's in the body code. Yeah.
yeah, and the generational stuff,
Mhm.
crazy.
Fascinating.
It really is. I mean, and so over the history, there's some people that just basically were born in the wrong place, the wrong time, and that's what they are dealing with. Then your body code is a form of energy healing that deals with balancing the body in these different aspects with when you find out what the emotions and the baggage is, right? And so it's a sophisticated and complete method of body balancing. And anything that's imbalanced in the body is able to be identified and corrected. So it is not meant, of course, to replace medical treatment, but by correcting these underlying imbalances, it certainly helps the body align so that, any kind of nutritional or any kind of treatment is going to be accepted and more effective, correct? Yeah. So basically, it's so important because when we get our, when we have our basic organs and our systems working and fine-tuned, it makes every difference.
Yes. Yeah. And if you could think of it, the subconscious, your internal computer system, sometimes you need a reset. Sometimes you need a reboot. Sometimes you're not aligned and your wires are broken. It's quite a fascinating system.
Well, and I don't know, would you say that just because we are have been such an allopathic society, that maybe has been compounded by some of these other treatments because they were just throwing something at it to alleviate a certain symptom, not really dealing with what caused that symptom. And then you layer, other things for the side effects or the whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's a topic I don't like to talk about.
No, I mean, it's something that is, people are very sensitive about and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically just knowing that there's a reaction for everything, and then there's an interaction and whatever, that sometimes under supervision, it might not be a bad idea to just kind of take everybody off of, or take them off of everything and slowly start over and see if you haven't already had a little bit of a reset. So
no, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just, well, I think that we're slowly kind of moving towards people being enlightened and more educated and really being their own advocate and looking for things on their own a little bit too. And then being an advocate for their loved ones. Okay. Because sometimes if people are dealing with something pretty major, it's overwhelming and they need help. So
I do get calls from moms that are like, hey, can you work on my son today? Hey, can you work on my daughter today? They're going through a really hard time.
And that can even help even with learning. I mean, learning disabilities and, staying still and focused, all that stuff is important. And how can a child do that if, they've got other things going on that could be remedied or addressed? Yeah. So that's beautiful. So, you do have down here like what to expect in one of your sessions. So basically, how long does a session kind of last?
Most sessions last about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The body code sessions, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Again, the subconscious runs the show. So when they say,
Gotcha.
when it says it's done, it's done. But about an hour, and then you can expect some processing because we've got this energy moving, and now you need to process it. So I do have some people that call me because they want a good night's sleep, because normally that is one of the feedbacks from the processing is a good night's sleep. I actually have people that will fall asleep on the table. I'll just keep working with them
because they get so relaxed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I refer to it as an emotional massage.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, obviously you have to be, you can't be uptight and out of sight and expect things to flow. You have to be able to let energy flow. But so in preparing for your session, you do want them to be hydrated, to have some water and be comfortable, whether they're, just some loose clothing, and be just really open to realizing that there's no risk. There's nothing that they have to do or have to be exposed to, or they just need to be as relaxed as possible. Right.
Yes.
And then during it, they will relax, and past memories may come to their mind, or they may experience some emotional reactions. So it probably isn't unheard of that people all of a sudden start to cry.
Correct.
Maybe. Yeah. And that's a good thing to release, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's high time we get over that stigma.
Absolutely.
So, and then processing 24 to 48 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The body code, it takes about a week for everything to really incorporate in. The trapped emotions, that's usually the 24 to 48 hours. And what I will find, and what I've gotten feedback from my clients, is that the processing, so say my client that's been coming to me, that she's been to me 9 times, at the very beginning, the processing was exhausting for her. Like she would leave a session and she would just, I have to go home, I have to sleep,
Okay.
then she would have tons of energy, but she was exhausted to start with. But as you go, it gets easier. And that's what I found with my own personal experience too. I can do a session with myself and I don't really even notice the processing at this point. But at the very beginning, yes. Or if I've done if I did a really
Right.
long one, I might take a little nap. But yeah, that's the feedback that I get is, so some people, like my Fridays are usually pretty full because people want the weekend to rest.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. You don't want to, especially if you have to be at your best at your job or whatever you're doing, you don't want to compromise that. So that totally makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I forget, I was going to just say something, I forget what it was, but yeah, it's amazing that we can do these things and that you can help people, whether they're in person or not. How long, again, do you have sessions, you try to put a few days in between sessions sometimes, or a week, or what do you find?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say a week.
A week is good.
Yeah, a week is good, yes. Because
And
that's allowing those energies to fully integrate. And
okay.
yeah.
Now
we
these
like to-
energies again make you tired, but when you talk about detoxing or kind of getting through the energies, are we talking anything physical, like when people are detoxing from heavy metals or parasites, and they have other physical things? Is there anything like that comes along too?
Well, you could have some of that, because in the body code there are parasites and there are toxins and there are the energy of those as well that can still cause the same
Reactions.
symptoms. Yeah. So yes, you could have that. I've released some toxins for myself and had a rash on my face. After a couple days it was gone, but it is releasing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Some of the dumb sayings, there is a little truth to some of them, but a lot of them too, when I repeat the old ones I grew up with, I'm like, well, that doesn't even sound right these days. I shouldn't even say that. But
well, one thing I will say is that I have had people say to me, you just released a weight off my shoulders. That's a feedback that I get. At the end of the day, after one of these sessions, you should feel lighter.
okay.
We're working with your energy body. And so we're taking these things that are weighing you down and releasing them. So
It
that's the
truly
goal.
is taking the baggage
Yeah.
and taking it and getting it the heck out of your life.
Yeah. Sweeping it out.
Oh, well, that's got to make you feel good. And, when you do it for yourself too, but just what a wonderful service that you perform for people. And if any of you have never tried the body codes or emotion codes, body codes, this kind of healing, it truly is an amazing healing form.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine my life without it. And
yeah.
it is extremely rewarding to be able to help people in this manner, especially when it comes to the anxious thoughts
Right.
and that's really quite near and dear to my heart, because that was what I struggled with. That was when I went to that training, I was like, if I only help myself, I'm good.
Right.
But then once I went, and then I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
I have to help others. But
Well, and just to go to something specific, and it may be over the pay grade or a question you can't answer, but when you talk about the anxious part and whatever, and so people who have reoccurring thoughts of hurting themselves, and ending their aliveness or whatever you call it.
right.
Is that something that obviously, finding out what's causing that
Oh,
can be a big deal.
yes,
Big help.
absolutely.
Right there,
Yes.
you would help so many people and their
Yes.
families.
Yes. And their families.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you know of anybody that you're concerned about in in your family or your friends or whatever, consider talking to them about it or gifting them a session or something. See if something like that would work. So I know that I live close enough to you. I mean, we could do a personal session, and because you're here in North Idaho or
Yes.
Coeur d'Alene area, but you do the remote sessions as well. So I will put, Tammy, I'll put your website and your contact information in the description under the video and so forth. So I highly encourage you all to give it a try or to look into it because it sounds like a very easy thing to do, and it may just change your perspective on life completely, and with more so than you think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to kind of say about what you're doing or any other little tidbits?
I would just say it is a very easy, subtle, powerful tool. And it can't hurt to try it. As I reiterate this, that I can't imagine my life without the emotion code and the body code.
Yeah.
People tell me I have a calming presence, and I laugh to myself.
That wasn't your story before, right?
It definitely wasn't my story before.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
But when a person has walked a mile in someone's shoes and found relief and found a new purpose and a new way of gifting others to help find their purpose like this, that's truly a gift.
Yeah.
And
yes, I agree. Thank you so
I'm
much,
so happy
Julianne.
that you joined me. Thank you for coming on and explaining what you do. And please give her a check into her website and see if Tammy can help you. So
I would love to be able to help them.
absolutely. So thank you, everyone. And until we come back next time. So you have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening. Bye-bye.